Welcome to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to guide you through this because we're about to explore some truly paradigm-shifting insights. We're looking at the work of Dr. Daniel Amen, a 10-time New York Times best-selling author, neuroscientist, and psychiatrist who is pretty much single-handedly leading what he calls the brain health revolution. If you're someone who is focused on actionable, efficient learning that can fundamentally change how you understand yourself, well, you are in exactly the right place. Today, we're reimagining the human experience by taking a strictly biological approach to mental health. I promise you clear, structured, and incredibly actionable insights today. So let's get started.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Imagine walking into a cardiologist's office because you're having severe chronic chest pain. Now imagine the doctor just sits down, asks you about your childhood, and never once performs an EKG or actually looks at your heart. I mean, you'd run out of the room, right? Yet, for decades, traditional psychiatry has been diagnosing and treating severe mental and emotional symptoms without ever actually looking at the physical organ that's responsible for them. That is the profound realization Dr. Amen had as he entered the field. As he perfectly puts it, he fell in love with the only medical specialty that never looks at the organ it treats. Here is our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start with the psychiatric blind spot. Then we'll shift paradigms to see why mental health is actually brain health. From there, we'll dive into the hardware versus software, discover your unique brain type, and finally, end with highly practical steps for killing automatic negative thoughts. Section 1. The psychiatric blind spot. Treating symptoms, not the source.
You know, for the longest time, psychiatrists were making life-altering diagnoses based entirely on subjective symptom clusters. They were just observing outward behavior. But things like depression, anxiety, and brain fog, those are merely symptoms. Guessing based on erratic behavior is honestly an incredibly risky way to practice medicine. So to stop guessing and start actually looking at the physical source, Dr. Amen became a true medical maverick back in 1991. Enter SPECT imaging. That stands for Single Photon Emission Computed Tomography. This incredible technology isn't just about looking at the static anatomy of the brain. It actually tracks blood flow and activity patterns right there within the neural tissue. By building the world's largest database of these scans, Dr. Amen was finally able to observe the real-time physical state of the human brain.
Section 2. Mental health is brain health. The paradigm shift.
This right here is a massive paradigm shift. It turns out, most psychiatric issues are not purely emotional, they're not character flaws, and they certainly aren't spiritual weaknesses. They are physical brain health issues at their absolute core. When you actually look at the physical organ, you find hidden biological root causes for a person's mental distress. For example, a patient diagnosed with clinical depression might actually be suffering from the lingering physical effects of past head trauma from playing sports. Or maybe they have toxic environmental exposure, like endocrine disruptors and cosmetics that are just tanking their hormone levels. It could be chronic inflammation from a highly processed diet, or even dormant infections. The beautiful truth here is that fixing these physical root causes allows the mind to naturally heal. We're literally turning psychiatry into a legitimate, evidence-based branch of medicine.
Section 3. The hardware versus software, a new technological motif.
And this brilliantly illustrates the central motif of our explainer. To make all this complex neuroscience instantly intuitive, it really helps to look at how the physical brain interacts with the abstract human mind. Think of Psyche as your hardware. This is the physical brain, the literal flesh and blood substrate for your existence. And just like a computer, it can be damaged by physical things: environmental mold, trauma, lack of sleep, or even heavy metal poisoning. Then, on side B, we have the software. This is your abstract mind, your psychology, which gets programmed by your habits and your past experiences. But here is the golden rule you have to remember. Absolutely no amount of expensive therapy or self-help software can run properly on biologically damaged hardware. You literally have to fix side A before side B can truly thrive. To truly map this out, Dr. Amen uses a holistic framework known as the 4 circles of a healthy life. You've got your biological circle, your psychological circle, your social connections, and your spiritual sense of purpose. But notice how biological is number 1. It's the absolute prerequisite. Think about it. If you have a history of multiple concussions, years of talk therapy in the psychological circle might not be effective at all until that physical brain tissue is healed. If you aren't sleeping and allowing your brain system to wash away daily toxic waste, your social and spiritual circles are going to inevitably suffer. The physical foundation has got to come first. Now, maintaining that biological foundation requires a bit of a rebellious attitude. Dr. Amen calls it the brain warrior mindset. As he bluntly puts it, we're living in a war. Everywhere you go, someone's trying to give you bad food that will kill you early. I know it sounds intense, but it's totally true. Modern society is actively attacking our hardware.
From highly processed carbohydrates that drastically increase your Alzheimer's risk, to digital gadgets engineered to hijack your dopamine, to a 24-hour news cycle specifically designed to keep your brain in a perpetual state of fear and anxiety. Honestly, being healthy in a fundamentally sick world is a profound act of rebellion.
Section 4. Your unique brain type. Moving beyond one size fits all.
16. That is the number of distinct brain types Dr. Amen has identified in his massive database of scans, and this is all based on unique patterns of blood flow and neural activity. The point is, you are not just some generic human. Your hardware runs on a very specific biological configuration. Let's break this down a bit. You might be the balanced type, stable, focused. Or perhaps you're the spontaneous type. You're creative, always seeking novelty, but naturally vulnerable to impulsivity, and maybe being chronically late because of lower baseline dopamine levels. Now, if you're a persistent type, you have a very active anterior cingulate. You love routine, but you might be prone to holding grudges or overthinking things. Understanding this is just an absolute game changer. For example, a high-protein, low-carb diet that perfectly grounds a persistent type might actually make a spontaneous type feel incredibly distracted and unfocused. Think about relationships, too. If a highly spontaneous person marries a highly persistent person, without understanding these biological differences, one person feels stifled while the other feels completely chaotic. Knowing your brain type tells you exactly where you're naturally vulnerable, which allows for targeted empathy and personalized habits.
Section 5. Killing automatic negative thoughts. Patching the software bugs.
All right, so now that we've optimized the biological hardware, let's talk about how we maintain our internal software and protect our peace. Dr. Amen coined a great term for this, ANTs, which stands for automatic negative thoughts. These are those unbidden inner critics that completely sabotage your mental peace. But here is the most fascinating and frankly surprising part. Letting these negative thoughts crawl around your mind isn't just an emotional burden. The brain scans actually show that entertaining negativity causes a physical drop in activity in your cerebellum. It literally makes your physical brain sluggish, confused, and clumsy. Your abstract thoughts instantly change your physical brain chemistry. Crazy, right? So the crucial point is how we eradicate this infestation. Here is the highly actionable 3-step procedure. Step 1. Give your brain a name to create psychological distance. You are not your thoughts. You need to separate your true self from the biological noise. Step 2. Write those negative thoughts down on paper. Get them out of the emotional ether and make them tangible. Step 3. Talk back to them with logic and truth. Ask yourself, is this definitely true? What is the actual evidence? This 3rd step is magic because it actively forces blood flow into your logical prefrontal cortex, bringing your brain's executive control center back online to squash that ant. I want you to really let this sink in. Just because you have a thought has absolutely nothing to do with whether or not it's true. What an incredibly powerful, liberating realization. You don't have to believe every random whim or fearful projection your hardware spits out. You can actively choose to accept a thought as helpful or reject it as a total lie. You have to lead your mind rather than being passively led by it. And that brings us to the ultimate daily filter for the brain health revolution. I want to challenge you to ask yourself this one simple question before every major decision. Is this good for my brain or bad for it? Ask it before your next meal, before you begin another hour of late-night doom scrolling, or before you engage in a heated argument. Loving your brain is literally the most important act of self-care you can ever perform. Take control of your biological destiny today. Treat your physical brain with immense respect, and I promise you it will reward you with a vibrant, optimized life. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and until next time, keep optimizing your hardware.